Can you imagine if I got up on the podium at church and said, hey guys, I started looking at pornography and my life has just become it's been such a fun, entertaining experience for me. Welcome to the Sole Proprietor Podcast. I'm Curt Kempton.
And I'm Melody Edwards.
Each week, we dive into the ethical questions that keep entrepreneurs awake at night.
Whether you're building your own company or exploring life's big questions, you are welcome here.
Hello, Melody.
Hey, Curt. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I am really excited today.
Yeah, I think you're a little too excited. We were just talking about how some people might not be as excited as we are about this very exciting topic.
Can we talk about ethics? Can we talk about I know there's no one else in the world probably cheering up and down, but I think today's topic is going to be an extreme brain teaser for people. And I think that's going to be fun.
I agree. Yeah, because we're weird.
So, Melody, let me ask you a question. It's loaded, but let's do it. Okay? Is certainty a good thing or a bad thing?
I wish for utter certainty. It feels like life would be so easy if I just firmly believed in only what I believed in and didn't have to think ever again.
Yeah.
That's what I think of so I think of certainty as a bad thing, but I long for it.
Interesting. So you said that it would be a wonderful thing, but it would be a bad thing.
It would make life easier, in my view, if I just believed whatever I believed and did not look outside of that or didn't question my beliefs or anything like that. That sounds like a really comfortable, easy life in one way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like your answer. I mean, I've been thinking about this a little bit here. And one of the things that comes to mind, first thing I thought of is Les Miserables. Les Miserables says, hey, if you steal a loaf of bread, you go to jail. If you try to break out of jail, we make your sentence worse. Jean Valjean, he pays this seriously terrible price for, what we would consider as a very small. Anyway, certainty is like justice. Like it's cut and dried. I know it. And to say that certainty is bad, I think that would be it's not a true statement. And then
depends on what it is, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't need to spend a bunch of time questioning things that I should be certain about, Yeah. Is the sun going to come up tomorrow? I don't know. Maybe it probably will. I mean, I have lots of reasons to believe it will, but I don't know. Am I going to wring my hands about that all day? Right. But basically every good movie, every good plot, every cool relationship is that questioning of what you thought you knew. And then you find out maybe you didn't understand it fully, or maybe there is an allowance for that to not always be the case. And I know there's a lot of listeners who probably are getting a little nervous about where this is going. And the reason is because we talk about eternal truth and we talk about, when we go to church, we talk about there's just things that are just true. And, that's why I use the sun coming up tomorrow. It's just true. The sun is going to come up tomorrow. It's just true. Gravity's going to, if I throw something up in the air, gravity's just going to pull it down. It's just true, right? But also certainty is something that we use to make ourselves feel good so that we don't have to make decisions that are really hard, right? And I think that sometimes can really hurt us. And we'll talk about that today. What are you thinking, Mel?
First of all, I was just remembering that I forgot to tell you, I sang at church on Sunday.
No way!
Yeah, the minister of music was leaving and he was my person back in the day and he's moving on to a new church. So we surprised him. And then going back to church, it reminded me of I love this community of people. And also I was thinking, I really wish it was this simple, listening to the minister and all of this. I wish it was this simple because I obviously struggle with certainty on anything, basically. And the other thing I was thinking about is in business, I think certainty is such a strength to have in many ways. When you have knowledge and maybe experience, there are certain things that if you have that certainty, it helps you to make quick decisions.
And it breeds confidence.
Yes.
That confidence is almost like a liquid that can just move into the pores of all you do. And, and that, I think that is a really important. Certainty breeds confidence. Right? Yeah. I think that there's a real importance in business for that. In fact, let's sort of state our question here. And my question is what does it mean to be certain about your beliefs, but also how does that certainty interact with your religious beliefs, your ethical decision making, your spirituality of what you believe is the purpose of your life, other people's lives, the people that you serve, the people that you work with to serve. And how can that, so then we take that question, we say, how does that engage you to act with confidence, but not become so overconfident as to be blinded to our own moral decision making that needs to be done with things that can affect other people?
That's a really light question.
Yeah, I know. Let's just talk about it for an hour.
Yeah, you're gonna have to break this up into pieces. That's a lot.
Well, let's start by sort of, I already got some definitions for us I want to use for some of these words, okay? Because
Great.
This is going to be nuanced enough that we need to know that we don't want to talk past each other here, okay?
Yeah, we're talking about the same definitions of,
So let's say certainty is a firm conviction or unquestioned belief in an idea or truth, okay? So sometimes certainty is, I've seen it, but that's not what we're saying. We're saying it's a firm conviction or an unquestioned belief. And I think that we're going to use that term unquestioned, I think, interchangeably with the word certainty for our purpose today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agree.
When I speak of religion, the definition that I've chosen to give religion for this discussion is, I'm going to call it an organized system of beliefs, rituals, and moral codes that are often grounded in revealed or sacred text. So, for our audience, I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of Christians listening, but there's other sacred texts than the Holy Bible, right? In fact, I, as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I operate off of several other sacred texts. I use the Book of Mormon, Doctrine and Covenants, Pearl of Great Price. I treat those as scripture. Also, we have modern living prophets that we also would treat their words as sacred text. But for your Buddhists and your Islam, Muslims, and so they all have their own codes and their own sacred texts. And then the last definition I want to throw out there is ethics, which is a framework that is reasoned and used for deciding right and wrong, typically open to debate. Now, debate and context. And the reason I think that this is important is that where certainty and religion are pretty, I think, we don't have a lot of flexibility in those.
Yeah.
Ethics, I believe, has a lot more flexibility built in. Now, I'm not saying that ethics are flip-flop, they blow with the wind. That's not what I'm trying to say. The point is that I think that someone who is firm in their ethical beliefs could much more likely be willing to change a stance, where I think that would be a lot less likely in someone who has an unquestioned belief, such as uncertainty, or who follows a religious faith that would have tradition and other things built in that would not allow for that.
Yeah.
So how does that sound? Does that sound
that sounds good to me? I approve and agree.
Okay. So here's what I'd like this question to lead us to. We need to understand the difference between when certainty is serving us and when certainty is failing us. These are two sides to the same exact coin. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are your thoughts on how certainty either serves or fails?
I think in my life, certainty would serve me a lot more if I was certain. I don't even know how to talk about. No, you know what? No. I have certainty about certain ethical beliefs, for instance, that I don't think could be. That's the one place where I feel like morally, I have moral certainty on things, not based on a sacred text or based on, what was the other, an unwavering, unquestioned.
Well, it would be like the system of the religion, like beliefs, rituals, moral codes that are shared with everyone else.
But I think when you experience things in life, I mean, I had my base level of values that was placed into me, right? And then over time, you experience things and you meet different kinds of people and you learn different kinds of things. And so I have a certainty that I need to treat people really well. But what does that mean? It's going to mean different things to different people, right?
Sure.
I have a certainty.
But how does that certainty serve you?
Because I selfishly will know that I'm a good person if I follow the mantra of treating people well and caring about people, kind of people first mentality. I think when I think about it's hard, it's like such a foreign concept to me, this certainty you speak of.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, in our religion, there's a word we use a lot called agency. And we believe that the whole purpose of this life is for us to learn how to exercise our agency in a way that serves us and our fellow men and our God to the best of our ability. And yet, when you're parenting, you understand that you take all the agency away from your child when they're first born, right? Like
Yeah.
there's no agency given basically at all. And they move up as they get older and older. And if you're doing it right, I would say you're trying to give them more and more and more agency. And the more you give them, the more you wish that they didn't have it,
Right.
because they really, make stupid choices. And that's sort of our ability, again, in the reflection of my faith, that is sort of to allow us to see how God, he has the restraint to allow us agency, but it gives us the growth and the ability to learn about ourselves in a way that we never could without agency. And so I'm talking about agency now in this thing of like where you say, I wish I had it. It's a foreign concept. Well, as a parent, like I wish my children didn't have agency, and yet it's all I want is for my kids to have agency. And it's an interesting conundrum because you're like, I want them to try on these new attitudes and these new things and figure out who they actually are. I want them to emerge well-reasoned and knowing what they are. But I just don't want them to keep banging their head against the wall and making my life miserable when I have to go bail them out of jail or go, last situation I had to go, last week, my son totaled our vehicle and I had to I was actually out of town when it happened. My wife had to go and get him off the street and I had to step out of a conference and I had to talk to, police officer and everything. And you go, gosh, if these kids just didn't have any agency. So it's this, I think we'll talk about the same thing here. And that is that I don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't exist. And at the same time, you're like, yeah, it does, because I believe in treating people good. Why? Because I'm selfish. What? What does that mean? Well, I am certain that if I treat people good, then I'll feel good about myself.
And also, I believe that everybody should be treated well. Like it's all what we all want.
Yeah.
So I love the concept of agency. I think that is something that is not confusing to me at all, and I really believe in. And the same thing with kids. Like of course I want them to have agency. I want my son right now to grow into an adult who can be independent and make decisions that are good. But also I want it to be all the way that I want it to be and never painful for me or for him, which obviously that's not how it works. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting before you have kids. So my brother's about to have a kid like next week or this week, who knows, any moment. Nice. And when I say him, I mean his wife.
Are you sure?
I am.
You're certain?
I am certain because this is one of those areas I'm certain of. But what he is certain of, and I've recorded him twice at various stages of this pregnancy, and I will record him again about a year in.
Oh, this is going to be good.
He is certain that his house will remain a calm place that is well tidied. It is tidy.
Do you remember when you were that naive? Do you remember back?
No, because I was 21 when I had my first kid. But I love it because my brother's 15 years younger than me. It's his first kid. I've already raised a bunch. I know he's secretly judging me in his head every time he comes over and sees the mess. What he doesn't know is that I could keep my house really clean and be miserable all the time, or I can have a less clean home because they always make a mess again, and I can have more enjoyment in my life. And when you have a baby, how many things do you get? Like your house becomes a baby haven. So again,
I remember giving up that battle.
I'm
very tidy. I really do believe in order and everything has its place and no dust on anything and stuff. And I remember I would clean the toys are back out, put the toys back away, and then we got food all over the couch. And I remember thinking, I'll never win. I can never win for the rest of my life. And I do remember that. So let's tie something in here.
Okay.
Because we've been talking about agency, I want to use agency to really shine a light on certainty. I don't know how deep we should go on this because I want to protect my son's not only his identity but also
dignity.
Privacy. Yeah. So one of my sons, who shall remain nameless, was just absolutely certain that he needs to get into a relationship with a girl. He needs to. And Rachel and I, you're a little young. You're a little bit young to pair off and single out. But he was certain he needed to do it. And his agency, this is where he's so sure. And I'm like, but son, you really don't have that much experience. You don't know as much as your mom and me. You're kind of dumb in a lot of ways. but it's just because your brain hasn't formed. Like, it's
Yeah.
not a dig. It's like, you just need to know this about yourself. And anyway, Rachel and I caved. We just said, you know what? This kid is going to be one who learns by experience. We're just going to let it happen. And I told him, I said, I don't believe you actually want a girlfriend. I don't think you're capable of it, but let's go. So he went down the road and started seeing things, like a lot of things that were like red flag, red flag, red flag. This is not going to go well for you. This is not going to end well. Like, so I pulled him aside and I talked about, and I had Rachel there. I was like, son, here are the 7 things that I've noticed that lead me to believe that you're going to break a heart and you're not going to understand why it happened. So I'm going to go ahead and just paint a picture for you. And he's still struggling through it all. But Rachel and I sat down and talked to each other, and we were like, this kid is going to damage this girl. He is going to damage her. He thinks that he can continue these other friendships and his flirty things with other girls, and she thinks they're going to get married and they're going to have babies together, and and yeah, bless her heart, she's 15 and he's 17, and
wow.
Whatever it is. And I say, Rachel, do we step in here? No, we're going to, I am sure, I'm using this in terms of certainty. I am unquestioningly believing that this guy, he needs to learn more about the world. He needs to date other girls. I'm sure of it. I'm sure that he needs to see more about what he does and doesn't like. I'm sure that he needs to understand more about the dynamic of somebody when you've paired off with them, what that means to both people's sort of view of the world and view of themselves and view of, their future. And he is absolutely sure that I'm an idiot. He is so sure of it.
That's his role.
So here's where certainty serves me. When I'm sure, it makes it easier for me to identify certain things that are off the radar, right? So if I'm sure of something, there's good in it. I can see things that are breaking the pattern. It's easy. I can make decisions fast, right? I can just measure it up against what I know. I can say, yep, this is out of line. Boom, this is where we're going to go. Certainty also provides for me a community of people I can trust. So my wife and I are able to team up because we're both certain of the same things. We both see it the same way. We're measuring with the same ruler, with the same increments on it. Not in every single, certainty's a spectrum on different things, but like for the things you're sharing with, you can identify your people, right? These are the people I am aligned with, because we're not going to keep spending all our time spinning our wheels, asking questions about stuff. And honestly, that's, I think, the greatest gift of certainty is that ability to not have to start from scratch every time any little thing happens. Certainty is that you're not walking on ice. There's traction on the bottom of your shoe. You can take a step and you can walk forward. I think that not being certain, and I have a real problem with people who can't ever make a decision on anything, the people who are just always questioning to the point of never getting anything done, well, that's not the place to be either, right? But certainty isn't all good. And so before I get into that, Melly, what would you add or take away from that?
Well, I was thinking about how I view myself versus how other people might view me. Internally, I feel like I am constantly uncertain, but it doesn't stop me from making decisions, right? Because I know that I have to make decisions. If I don't make decisions, especially, business-wise and personally, like I think in your personal life, you can question more, but in business, I can't. I feel like I need to make decisions. And it's either going to be right or wrong, because we never know with certainty, but we make decisions based on our experience and on the belief that we know how to make good decisions most of the time, or that we have that history of it. But internally, with the big life things, I feel like a lot of uncertainty and a lot of questioning. I don't know if that's bad necessarily, because it keeps me open to the world. It keeps me open to a lot of different kinds of people. And I don't dismiss people based on their belief system. Because just like you, I've been around a lot of very firm belief systems, and then people who are just on the other side of that belief system. And I don't know, it just feels like I can have an openness when I'm able to see outside of my own belief.
I love that. I love that, because you just talked about where certainty fails us and where it's a bright spot to not be totally certain. But I do want to point out that even though you used a little bit different terms, I'm just going to sort of distill down one of the things that you said that was, I think, really important. And that is that You may not be certain in business about what you need to do, but you are certain that not doing anything is way too great of a cost. And so that will be your override button that you can push. And by the way, I don't think that there's a single bit of that I would say is different than me. I spend a lot of time in business not sure what the right thing to do is, but I need to hurry and get all my mistakes done so I can hurry and find what I can find to be true. And I think that just being in business a long time, I don't know, maybe people more successful than me would say that that's maybe not the opposite. But for me, I've done the wring my hands forever thing, and that definitely does not work. So I'm better to go with my gut and make a decision on something that I'm not sure about because I am sure that that's the best thing to do.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, where certainty can serve us. Now, you just talked about what certainty can create that's a big problem. And that is, the word is dogmatism. Okay. And I know dogmatism is typically going to be a religious, hit. People are going to use it to make fun of religion or to knock. But the fact is that dogmatism stretches outside of religion. Dogmatism is more about us versus them. These are things that cannot be questioned. And what that can do is it can create a lot of friction with people who believe differently than you. Honestly, whether we're talking about politics, whether we're talking about an issue, I know some of the strong issues out there. Abortion is a big issue. Race is cake.
Yeah, is a big issue.
Yeah. Marriage equality. So we all know. I think people know the story. I looked it up before we met. So there's a guy named Jack Phillips. He was from the Masterpiece Cake Shop, and he was sued by Colorado's Civil Rights Commission about not making a cake for a same-sex couple because of his religious beliefs. Fact is that the court did rule 7-2 in his favor, that he did not have to. His religious principles allowed him to not make the cake. Now, as we reference that was his call, and the court upheld his ability to do that. But dogmatism can be that you believe different than me, and therefore you're less than me.
Yeah.
Or you have no value, which would be obviously even worse. Or that nothing that comes out of your mouth is worth entertaining. Dogmatism can very much push us that direction. And I think that's important. But the one I really resonate with, the issue I resonate the most with personally, is that certainty creates ethical blind spots in general. It's the ability to say, I am so overconfident in the truthfulness of what I have experienced or believed, my anecdotal life experience, my spoon-fed to me things that I should accept. That blind spot doesn't even have to be an us versus them thing. It can just be, I'm not open to hearing your experience because your experience is in my blind spot, right?
Yeah.
And I know that, going to church, they're not going to over the pulpit. They're not going to tell stories anecdotally. It's wonderful when they tell a story that supports our belief system. But can you imagine if I got up on the podium at church and said, hey guys, I started looking at pornography and my life has just become it's been such a fun, entertaining experience for me. I am loving it. And the release that I get is just fantastic. If I got up there and said that, I am sure that the church building would cave in on me, right? And we all know that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
But that's where, and I'm not, by the way, I'm not advocating for pornography for those who are listening. I use that example to paint a picture of where certainty can really fail us, is that we wouldn't even consider the side of the person who maybe believes so different than us. We've got to stay in our echo chamber. And that's where I feel you won't grow. You can't grow if you've already predetermined the box that you have to live inside of, and that you're not allowed to know what's outside of that box wall. That's where I start to get a little bit concerned about certainty. Yet, when I go to church, by the way, when I go to church, do I feel good? Yes. Do I love the people I go to community with? You just talked about it for yourself now. I agree. I go to church with people I feel great community with. I love them so much. But if I am surrounding myself with people who I already know how every conversation is going to end, and I know the conclusions that we're all going to come to, I cannot grow anymore outside of where I started.
Yeah. I don't know what led me or you or people like us to that kind of conclusion in life. One of my mentors I had breakfast with this morning, and he's 80. I think he's 80. a little more youthful, though. He
Okay.
seems like a 60 to me. But Dave we have the best conversations. And if at his age still, he and I are kind of like in alignment about questioning. He's very much a man of faith and God, but he also has the ability to hold people as they are. And he just won Man of the Year in our area.
Wow.
Person of the Year. We don't do Men of the Year. Person of the Year.
And
The
you ate
local.
breakfast with him.
I know, it was very fancy of me. But he and I talk about this very topic and this kind of stuff every time we meet. And I think that gives me a certainty in one way that it's okay that I am not certain. And I feel good to know that, or maybe it's just a relief, because I used to think certainty would just come. If I thought hard enough, I would just get there. I don't know that that's true for everybody. When I think about in business, I was never certain of what I wanted to be when I grow up, and I'm still not certain about what I want to be when I grow up. And then there are other people.
You better start thinking about this, man.
I mean, I have time, but like seriously, people sometimes make that decision when they're 8 years old, and then they just go from there with certainty about what they want.
Yeah.
I also kind of wonder, now that I think about it, it's like there's so many factors that come into play with this conversation. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just uncertain.
Well, I know one of the things I want to tie in, and I'm not sure what your religious experience is, but in our tradition, we have one Sunday a month that's called Fast Sunday. And in Fast Sunday, just regular members of the audience can get up, about an hour, about 45 minutes dedicated in this meeting to people just getting up, standing in the pulpit and saying what they know to be true. Bear their testimony of what their experience has been, what's true. So it's obviously almost all anecdotal, but it's also very, very faith promoting, right? Like I'm going to get up there and talk about my sister was struggling with this, and I said a prayer and she was healed. And I know that God really took care of us. You could even get up and say, my sister was sick. I said a prayer and she died. And here's the faithful thing that I came out with, right? You can't get up and say, and so I know there's no God. Right. He doesn't answer prayer. Like that wouldn't work. But I could get up and I could say, I know that there's a God. He let me know that everything's going to be okay. And so, that's my experience. And then I sit down.
Now my sister's in a better place.
Yeah. Now she's in a better place. And God has let me know that that's the case. And I'm good with it. So as a result, what happens is you get these little kids that want to participate, and they get up and they're barely able to even reach the pulpit. They actually have a box they pull out from the stand on top of. And the kid gets up there and says, I know the church is true. I know God loves me. And they kind of repeat like the same things. And I love my mom and dad. And that's another one. Like, I love my mom and dad. Hey, that's not really a testimony, but cool. Right on. Anyway, the fact is that it's special. Like it's cute, but they become 10 or 11 and 15. And at some point they've been using the word, I know this is true enough times. And all of a sudden you feel a little bit like, I don't know about every person, but for me personally, you get a certain age and you're like, hey, was I tricked into saying something like, when did I know it was true? Do I know it's true now? But I was saying it so young because I want to fit in. Everybody wants to be accepted. And that certainty is rewarded. But Mel, if I stood up there and I said, guys, of everything I've experienced in the world, this seems pretty good. It's about as close as I've found to something that's interesting. It seems to be helpful. I don't actually think it's 100% true. Like that would be rejected, right? Even if it's true, if it was true to say that. And so here's where I'm going to lead this part. And I'm really curious of your thoughts on this, Mel. And I really want to know about your religious tradition as well. But it leads us to all become liars. And the reason I say that, and I know it's a strong statement, but it's acceptable to say certain things and it's unacceptable to say others. And the people who say the acceptable things get the microphone. The people who can't say those things or won't say those things, they don't get the microphone. And so later on, we get to a part of our life where we personally have to do an audit of what we believe is true or we're certain of, or what I use. The words I know are very strong. And so at some point we've cheapened those words, or we use those words to get out of uncomfortable positions in order to say the comfortable thing. And we take these really heavy words, we throw them around like they're just some sort of toy. And so I don't think it's a stretch to say, and I'm, maybe push back if you need to, but I don't think it's a stretch to say that this sort of training that we do in certainly in my tradition, probably in a lot of other traditions, we sort of raise a bunch of liars. It's cute and it's fine and it's, some might even say harmless. I'm not sure if everyone would say that, but nonetheless, it's a training ground and it starts very young. And whether they're participating or not, anyone who is around at that time understands what is acceptable and what is not, and they learn the social norms, and they know how they fit into it. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. I know I'm too businessy, but I'll come back.
Okay.
All I can think about is sales when you're talking about this, because I don't think it's an accident that we both have a similar belief system about this. And also we've kind of struggled with the ethical beliefs of selling, right? Because that's what we're doing in church. The Bible is selling something to us, even though I know nobody's going to say it like that. But, and starting from a very, very young age, we do Sunday school, at least in my religious, what do you call it? You call it your tradition, which I think is really nice. I'll just call it like my upbringing. I went to very charismatic churches growing up, like I've talked about, and I was sold a story of the Bible. And it's always exciting when you're a kid to hear the story in the way that they've downgraded, like that they've simplified it, right?
Yeah.
And there's always like a hero and there's always a villain in many of these stories. But it's like we are trained to hear these things, to believe them. And then we listen to other charismatic, at least in our church, I know that it's different for yours, charismatic people training that and instilling that into our mind. And then also I had my parents who were charismatic people instilling their beliefs into my mind. And I was not somebody who, it's not that I didn't have my doubts. I've always had doubts since I was very young, but I just decided that that was wrong.
Yes.
Because nobody else was presenting.
Yes. What a great insight. By the way, if you haven't heard Melody's story about her religious upbringing, traditions, and things like that, it would be important for you to go back and listen to that podcast. It'll give you a lot more insight into what she's saying, because she's going very quickly over some things that are very important. So anyway, go ahead, Melody. Sorry.
And same for Curt. You should listen to his episode too. Yeah, but really what that did for me is it caused me to eventually, when I have this internal battle all the time of believing that that I am bad in some way, for even having doubts to begin with.
Gosh, because it's resonating so hard. Yeah.
I'm sorry they were so similar. I want to be the devil's advocate here, which in this context does not quite work the way that it might in the world. I don't technically want to be the devil's advocate, but anyway. But I think it caused me to have a very big crisis, maybe in my 30s. I'd already had so many little crises. I'd left the church at certain points, but I still desperately wanted to believe in all of the things because I saw people just believing, just having faith with no, or if they had a story, if they had a testimony, it was usually, this is how I used to be. I used to be faithless, or I lost my faith before. And now I'm here telling you that I got it back and I got it bigger and better than ever. It just, again, reminds me of sales. Like I used to be, I used to be like you, not, really stupid and little and not understanding how to do this thing. But now I learned the secret, and you just pay me $1,000 and I'm going to give you the secret. If it doesn't work for you, it's because you're not trying hard enough.
But Melody, you don't always pay in cash. A lot of times you pay in time and you pay in energy,
but that's the thing, Curt.
But it is the point. It is the point, and I want to make sure people kind of take that point home too, because it resonates with me so much. It's are you going to be faithful enough to get off the couch and do this thing, or are you going to be a simpleton who doesn't really believe? And you can mobilize a lot of people to get a lot of stuff done. Which, by the way, not to inject my story onto yours, but just to give a slight additional perspective, is that I don't want to do my faith to please men and women. I want my faith to please God. And so that's a big distinction. Now, particularly in my faith, it's a big when I sometimes I get a little bit jealous of non-denominational people, because non-denominational people, there's this sort of more like a party atmosphere. We celebrate God in this really cool, fun way, where we're a little bit more reverent and stuff. What happens is that, and it's not to say there's no politics or government or anything like that, a non-denominational belief. I'm not saying that at all. Evangelicals, I know have that sort of
It's very
infrastructure.
political. Yes.
But what I mean is that like being guilt tripped into 6 days a week of hardcore service, forget yourself and go to work, right? Or, he who loses himself will find himself, right? That scripture. There's like this, like, well, so-and-so who is a high ranking person asked you to do this. It's like, yeah, but like, did God ask me to do it? Right? Like, yeah, I know he's a prophet. I understand that. I actually even believe it personally, right? Like, but is he asking me or is God asking me? Guys, I'm not really sure.
That happens in even non-denominational. Just please know that there's lots of guilt tripping in non-denominational. It is not always a party atmosphere. I don't know which ones you went to, but
yeah, the ones I went to. Well, I've gone to several. The rock bands are really cool. So so to get back to where you're at, one of the things that I just want to say is like to point out is that sometimes we pay with not our money, and almost right. Wish it was with money more time, but like it's hey, you use the word guilt trip. I think that's a phenomenal like, and I don't want to overuse it to the point where these people are intentionally doing it, but it's like hey, we got a really good thing we want to do, and we can't do it without 20 of you volunteering right now. It's like well, what if I don't want to? Well, I mean, if you're not faithful, I guess you could just not. But I'm looking for 20 faithful. Ouch.
Like, I mean, I put money into the basket when it came to me the other day at church, like, and I would give money to the church as a community. It does a lot of good in the community and beyond, but also like, it's a little bit of a pressure situation.
Yeah. We don't have baskets in our tradition.
They don't pass it down the aisles.
No, but boy. So like, yeah. Are you giving for God? Or are you giving for fellow men? Like, are people watching and you're like, was that a 20 she put in or a 5?
I did wrap my 5 in a 1. I mean, I wrapped my 1 in a 5 so that it was $7.
So it looked like there was multiple dollars and one of them for sure was a 5. Yeah. That's smart. That's super smart. And did you make sure that the 5 was showing or did you let like the middle of the bill show?
No, the 5.
Yeah. Yeah, go girl.
So my friend was giving 20 and that's why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So now we've talked about some of the blind spots of certainty, some of the bad side of certainty. I think that we can't live in a place where we're fully uncertain or fully certain. And I don't think anyone's going to argue that point. So what I'd like to do now is I would like to talk about what is the role of as an entrepreneur. This is the Sole Proprietor podcast. Let's not forget. Here we go. We have ethical decision making that we have to do. We have people that we very much care about that we like are our customers. We have people we care about who are our employees. We have a community that we operate within. In a world where my ethics and this is sort of how I come at everything. I know it was the first ethics I was really ever exposed to were religious ethics, religious context. So, in what sense do we take what was fed to us, and where do we allow questioning, and when do we allow ourselves to say, "I am fully certain of this thing"? And when you are fully certain with something, how do you hold it?
I think of the conversation I had today with somebody. I had a lot of conversations today, like 6 or 7, meeting after meeting. But one of them was about, I think I have failed in entrepreneurship in one big way is I think I've been way too ethical to a fault because, and maybe I'm calling it ethics, but it's more of, like, if I am not 100% sure that I know how to do this thing well, I can't tell people with certainty that I know how to do this thing well, or that we're best at this. If we have even if I had a 99% success rate, well, I'm not perfect at it. So I failed somebody. And that's an extreme example. But my friend Pat Clark, I was talking to him today, and I was saying something about how I sell I'm not really a sales lady, but how I try to sell is with a lot of like setting expectations. And he's like, wait a minute, you shouldn't put your own, what did he say? It's like not doubts, but you shouldn't put your own stuff on other people, which we've heard that before, right?
Yeah.
Which is such a sales thing to say, like, but he's not wrong. I put my stuff and my experiences with working with hundreds of people now, probably thousands of people that I've taught, in my core classes and all the things. I have experienced so many things that I never want to sound too certain. I never want to sound too confident. And because I don't want people to call me out for being a fraud. It's like my biggest fear. A lack of integrity means everything to me.
Yeah.
But the psychology of people and humans requires us, we talk about this all the time, but it requires us to talk in a different way, or else, like you said in church, like they're not going to listen.
Yeah.
Is that?
I think you're talking about the word confidence.
I said,
Can I use the word overconfidence? Like, I think the world almost requires us. If you're going to sell, you got to sell with some confidence. Dare I say, overconfidence?
Yeah, like utter belief. You have to convince people that there is no other way, in that charismatic way, in that dogmatic, like it's just this is the right one. It's not dogma, but you know what I mean? Like, and when you're somebody who cares about integrity and morals and values and all the really fun things in this world, maybe you can overdo it. And I'm starting to feel unethical, if I can say that, in certain ways, because I've stopped being as careful as I used to be. And I've started being more confident.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm not, I think it's because I've learned that the rest of the world operates. It's not like somebody suddenly is 100% sure that they have figured it out and then they wait and then they start to become confident. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Maybe I had the wrong idea all along, is what I'm saying.
Well, you probably did. I mean,
I'm sure I did.
I mean, if you are not confident, i.e., certain in your area of expertise, you're going to starve to death. There's no way. Like, you can't have an expert out there. And the really challenging part is that if you're truly expert, the more you know you don't know.
I know.
And there's that adolescent phase where everyone who knows everything barely knows anything at all.
They're the worst.
And so what happens is that, yes, you have that protective layer of keeping your integrity intact. Fair. I understand that. But then there's also the uncertainty that comes from expertness. And it's ironic, but that is, for whatever reason, whether you believe in God or you don't, our creator is not, he or she has architected this life so that it's sort of a universal truth that the smarter you are, the more you will realize you don't know.
Yeah.
And with your expertise comes more and more uncertainty. And I think that's the other piece that we have to unravel here.
That's wisdom, though. I think that's wisdom.
Well, it sure is. But I think that wisdom in the religious context, and actually I'll even say in the business context, because you were just actually, I think you illustrated it beautifully, is that people don't want to buy from people who aren't so sure.
Yeah.
And so wisdom is sort of not a great quality in that killer instinct that you need to have in business. And it's also, and I'm not going to use killer instinct for religion, but whatever the equivalent of that is, I'll call it faithful. You can't be a faithful person. But the more I study the Bible and the Book of Mormon and the Pearl of Great Price and the Quran,
so much studying going on here.
The more I read, the more I'm not so sure of the things that I used to be absolutely certain of.
Yeah.
And it's not going to go over well. I told my wife the other day, and my dad was in the room too. I said, I can never get up there and bear my testimony. I hope you guys know that. My testimony, I would either have to lie or I would have to get up there and say a bunch of things that don't fit the societal norm. And so I sit in the congregation and I listen to all the people who are so sure of all these things.
Oof.
And I used to be jealous of them. I'm not anymore. I'm not jealous of them because I think that
Curt, don't you think about the other half of the congregation who's also not up there giving their testimony because they feel like a huge fraud because they're not certain the way that everybody else is certain? Like that is probably a much larger percentage of people around you than you might think.
Possibly. I could see that being very much the case. If you've grown up in it, though, I think that the words "I know" have become very flimsy.
Oh,
I think that they become flimsy. I don't know. So I'll say this. Wisdom, as you put it, I think wisdom is the ability to be certain and grounded in some things while remaining completely open and hungry for others.
Discernment of.
Yes.
I
like
love that word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I really want to disagree with you. We have to find something where we are just really not going to agree. And then we need to debate it because I'm just tired of all this agreement.
Yeah. Well, I am curious. I would love for one of our listeners to sort of share their stories with us. And one of the things that I think would be really fascinating for our listeners to share with us is to tell us where we got it wrong. I think part of what I really enjoy, and maybe I'm trying to be wise here, I don't know, but I am open to the idea of hearing, other people's experiences. And the problem with spiritual and religious and ethical experiences is that they are by definition anecdotal. They're not going to be surveyed usually. It's very difficult. But I think that's okay. I don't know. I've grown up in a way of just listening to other people's stories in their lives. And where I've talked about where being 100% certain is probably not right, but also we know for sure that being 100% uncertain on everything is not right. And what is the right mixture? I don't know. But as life goes on, my experience has been that I'm actually becoming more and more uncertain while knowing more and more things.
Yeah. Well, I am certain about the one I thought about my story and the thing that I've said a couple times. I don't know what I believe in anymore, but I'm certain I'm going to hell for it, right? I don't know if I believe in God, but I'm certain I'm going to hell. So I know that's a funny thing to say, but it kind of actually it defines everything in my life in some way. But I think I would really love to hear people who can call us out. You and I we love stuff like that. I love to hear people calling me out so that I can actually have a bigger view of the world again, right? Like we are always trying to grow from that and look for the blind spots. Why are we so comfortable looking for the blind spots? I seek that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that actually might be an entirely different podcast, but can I just comment on that? I think it's a wonderful question. And the thing that just popped in my mind when you said, why do you come from the blind spots, is because I've walked around, I've done exercises where you put a blindfold on and try to walk around a room. And even with nothing in your path, it's a very anxious place to be. And I don't like it. I don't like the feeling. Is there going to be a cliff on the edge? Is there a chair in my way? Am I going to twist my ankle? Is there something coming at me? I don't like that. But I feel this comfort in saying, I've looked here and I know what's in there and I'm afraid. Now, can one human being, even with the help of AI and everything else in the world today, can one human being see and understand everything? I don't think that we have the mental capacity to do it in this life. But I think that keep my head on a swivel is a good thing. And with that, hence, and just in case somebody is listening and saying, well, here's a guy who's just going to be blown around by the wind. I am open to a lot of things, but part of me being open to a lot of things is my ability to say, but that's not what I'm going to continue with. And I feel that I'm a strong enough person to be true to my own convictions and certainties, and also to honor other people's certainties to the point where I know that there are people who hear that I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, otherwise known as the Mormons. People will hear that I'm a member of that church and they'll think less of me. But that doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't bother me at all because I also might hear your religion and there might be some sort of weird baggage or whatever along with it that might create. But I know that if I knew you're doing the best you could with everything that you had and you're being totally true in our, and I think anyone biblically will understand the statement, where much is given, much is required. You have to be true to what's given to you. And as I said in my story, when you interviewed me, Mel, about my own religious upbringing and stuff, is that I tried to not. For a while there, I was like, I don't want to just accept what was given to me. I need to go somewhere else. But I've been given so much fruit and, spiritual feelings and sensitivities to certain things that for whatever reason, God wants me to be true to those things. But for a second, now when I was a missionary, I did not feel this way. When I was a Mormon missionary going out and preaching the gospel, everyone needed to believe what I believed, or else they were just misguided. And I was wrong in that feeling. I just am thrilled when people are living true to what they've been given. And it's not to say that you can just go around inventing that, murdering people. I feel good about it. It's fine. I'm going to go ahead and, inflict myself upon society being true to what I believe. I'm not giving license to anything like that's harmful or hurtful to others. And I don't believe a God would want that to happen.
If you're a good person living a good life to the best of your ability.
Yeah. I would have a problem with someone who is living a good life, doing the best of their ability, but ignoring a component that was given to them through whatever means, whether it be a God thing or an ethical, whatever. To me, the sin is to receive and understand something to be the case and to ignore that on a level that you can control in order to not go through the required consequences that, I mean, obviously very well could be negative, but I respect the fact that if someone felt that they needed to really call me out for my beliefs and how misguided I was because they've received, lots of people have done that, by the way. A lot of Christians have pulled me aside and let me know, hey, I'm sorry you're worshiping the devil. This is the wrong, you believe in the wrong Jesus. And they explain how I should be accepting the Holy Trinity and that I've got the wrong guy. And, I actually respect it. I respect it because now, if it wasn't coming from a place of love or whatever, I might feel a little differently because look, now you're just putting on a show. That's different. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I do. Yeah. It brought back so many things. There's one thing we didn't, I'm thinking of this whole overarching conversation. And one thing that we didn't talk about is in our political world, we expect people to be certain forever and ever. We want politicians
Can't be a flip-flopper.
Cannot flip-flop. We need them to only believe in what they started believing when they were young and never change your mind.
Yeah.
I've always thought that was wrong, but I'm like, why wouldn't we want people who, based on life experience, change their mind?
Or based on, yes, or who are open to other people's life experiences.
Yes, we need people. Exactly.
Because what you experienced in your household at the age of 5 in rural Nebraska, if you got around and talked to people in California, New York, and who are 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, you might find that 5-year-old experience that you, for whatever reason, had to lock in, maybe it wasn't quite right.
Yeah, there's a real duality to our lives of we expect certainty, we crave certainty, and also growth comes from, I think, uncertain questioning or just being open.
Yeah.
Maybe having certainty, but being open to what's outside of that.
Okay, so here we go. Let's bring it home here. Melody, you're a Christian person right now that owns a cake building place, okay?
The cake building.
Hold on. Sorry.
I've always wanted a cake building company.
Sorry, that was I'll build you a cake. That was on No Point Dynamite. Okay, so you are the owner of Masterpiece Cake Shop in Colorado.
Yeah.
You have a religious conviction, Christian, that believes that same-sex marriage is not right. It's not of God. And a same-sex couple walks in and says, we'd love to get you. You're the best cake builder. Masterpiece Cake Shop.
How many cakes do you build in a year?
I built so many cakes.
So many cakes.
Yeah, like so many, you wouldn't even believe it. What do you do with the conviction that you have? And what do you think? Because this is one of those moral dilemmas that I think it's really hard to nail down. But what do you think?
If I was a Christian cake builder and somebody walked into my shop, and I know it might, maybe if somebody's listening, they don't understand that. I understand because I've lived in that world where you have those beliefs and it feels immoral. Like you're part of the quote unquote, is it immorality? If you, break what you believe. I think, isn't God and all about love and loving your neighbor, like basic things. And baking a cake is not the thing that's going to make you go to hell if you're a Christian who believes in that kind of stuff. Like, if that's the thing, we are all in big trouble. Big trouble. I just personally think I can understand wanting to believe in something so much that you're kind of putting it on everybody else. But what if that person was Black, like who came into the shop wanting a cake, and I don't know. There's just so many different things, but I think God is love, if nothing else, is the God that I want to believe in. And I don't know, Curt, what would you do if you were a
Well,
Mormon or
yeah.
Christian cake builder, whichever one?
Yeah. Well, I would say they're one and the same, but I'm going to just so I can find a parallel to compare against. I'm going to say I'm a pharmacist who has someone coming to me, because I really
That's
believe
been another one, actually. So yeah.
I really believe that the Christian person views that what those two people are doing is destructive to themselves.
Yeah.
And so I don't find this a stretch. They really eternally believe that what they're doing, and that this is their way of not helping that person to hurt themselves. If I was a pharmacist and someone came into me and said, I need some oxycodone, I am feeling really down right now, I'm going to hurt myself if I don't have some Oxycontin, I think that I would say, I cannot. But
what if they had a prescription?
Yeah. Now, if they had a prescription, I would say, I would call. I have some doubts here, right? I might call the doctor. I would do the best I can to do what is right. But
right for you or right for them?
For them. Right for them.
So you're imposing your views on them.
Yeah. I'm imposing my views that I know that someone who is addicted to Oxycontin is destroying themselves. And I don't want to participate in that with them. And I think that that's a lot the way that the cake builder.
But you made an assumption also that they're addicted.
So I want to add one final piece to this.
Sure.
Because what I just supposed to you was there was a legality standpoint there. There was something that, like, it would be illegal for me to knowingly give drugs to someone who should not be having. Like, it's a controlled substance.
Yes.
So now I'm going to take that from Oxycontin and I'm going to turn that into medical marijuana. Okay. Because now I'm going to sort of cut out the legality part of it. If it was as destructive to someone as Oxycontin, but is not illegal, right? As maybe medical marijuana.
I mean, you could just say cigarettes if it was that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, cigarettes, alcohol, yeah.
I cannot, but these are some places that you can go that will do it. I support your right to make your decision. So going to the cake. So let me just go to the cake thing. I cannot. I really believe that from my perspective, I would be helping you to provide destruction yourself. Now, step outside for a second, just a sidebar. As a brother of, to a gay man, my brother, I know that the most destructive thing that could have happened to him was to not find love and to not find partnership. And so I'm saying this again in the role that we're sort of like making up here
of the cake builder.
And I would say, but I can sit you down real quick. I know of some other reputable shops. You can go ask them what their beliefs are, because this gets really messy when you start thinking of it in terms of, well, you're Black, you can't live in this neighborhood, so I'm not selling this house to you, right? That person's not going to sit down and go try to find someone else in the neighborhood who will sell to them, right? And I think that's where the fact is that I love you and want for you, whatever brings you happiness. And I'm trying as hard as I can, but you have to understand, to see it from my side too, I can't. And
maybe you should have started a private cake club then instead of for a Christian private cake club.
Perhaps, but I don't know that when we start our businesses that we can think of every single scenario we need to protect ourselves against. And these moral dilemmas pop up. And I think that for me, where the important part is it says, I love you as a person, and I'm doing this out of my own convictions. I know I have projected my own beliefs onto you. But if we can find someone who can build a cake as beautifully as, you're looking for, who does not hold those same projections that they're going to project onto you, I will view it as a win for you to be able to keep me out of having to do this. But I will also know God told me two things. And again, I know I'm projecting Christianity here, but he told me two things: love God and love your neighbor. So I'm going to love God by not doing this thing to you, for you, slash, whatever. But I have to love you in spite of this. And if you find it to not be loving for me to like make a cake for you, then how can I love you? And the best way I can think of to do that is to say, but I will sit down with you. I mean, you're not disgusting. It's not like I won't sit at a table with you, but we're going to sit at this table and we're going to open up the yellow page, the Google.
Ooh, this is hard. Like hearing you just talk like this,
Mhm.
I'm having a reaction inside that is very hardened. Usually I'm like, and this is just an example that you're giving.
Yeah.
You're doing such a good job of
Yeah.
really
Well,
living that.
go ahead and share your feelings, because I think that's obviously important too.
I don't know. I think when I think of the loving God or whatever, and that's the thing that comes up is, what does that mean? It's all
Yeah.
in the Bible. We've all been taught all the things, and it's
Mhm.
all how we view the words.
It's open to
right?
interpretation. Yeah.
All completely open to interpretation.
Mhm.
And so the church I go to, when I go to church, which is rare, but the community, it's there, it's right on their building. It says, whoever you are, wherever you are in life's journey, you are welcome here. Very open and affirming, because they believe God is love and they love your neighbor. Like they just dive deep into that concept. And then there's other churches where they truly believe, and I've been in those churches, that loving your neighbor is holding the laws of God, not even the land, the laws and rules that God has set for man according to their interpretation, holding that, and that's how you show love, which feels very unloving. It's like the Old Testament God to me.
Yeah.
It's very confusing, to be
Well,
honest.
we should do a topic on the Old Testament God versus the New Testament God, because I think
We should
that's
get somebody in here who's like,
fascinating conversation.
it really is. Yeah.
So the reaction that you're having to my sort of the way that I would sort of play that out if I stood in that way, to be clear, maybe our viewers deserve to hear what I would actually do with my current beliefs, because I put us both in that sort of like Hasidic Christian.
Yeah.
But I would make the cake. I mean, I have a gay brother, and I know that loving him is loving God. And
Yeah.
if he asked me to do something that truly was hurtful, I would have a real problem. But baking a
Yeah.
cake, I don't see it there. So
I think it would be a sin to him that you did bake him a cake, though, because I'm not getting a good sense that you know how to do that.
you're getting the vibe right. You're getting the vibe right. Now, if I was in the kitchen with Rachel, she would make sure that everything came out just fine.
Of course, but we're not talking about Rachel. We're talking about Curt, the
Yeah,
cake builder.
master cake builder. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you came out of that sort of moral question saying, "Make the dadgum cake."
I felt certainty, moral certainty.
And I came out of it saying that I could see a scenario where I was protecting them to the best of my ability, which I think is where the real fallacy lies. And this is rampant through religion, dogma in and of itself, is that we believe that by keeping someone from doing something, we are keeping ourselves spotless and deterring them. Look, you can get married without a cake,
Do you think that
you
we
can celebrate without a cake.
Yeah, we as humans, with all of our ability to, have that autonomy of making our own decisions, like just because we think we know what's right for somebody, they are not us. They do not live our experience.
Mhm.
And I think that's the common issue. I mean, going back to children, I can think what's right for my 26-year-old daughter all I want, but she didn't grow up like she didn't live my life, and I haven't lived her life. So it's really that's the hard thing about being a human who believes in things.
Well, it is, and there's this other door we haven't talked about, and I know we've gone kind of long here, but I just want to point out one other thing, is that by this same line of thinking, I would need to judge you on
Judgment.
I would need to
Ooh.
judge you. Have you had premarital sex? I need to interview you, and I need to come to a conclusion as to whether your life choices line up with someone that I find spot free enough that I am, helping you to make the right choice.
Judge not lest you be
Yeah,
judged. Didn't
yeah,
somebody say that?
yeah. Jesus, the big J, the big JC said that. So I think it's important that we also understand what a slippery slope we stand on when we move into the part of, I don't want to help you to do something because it doesn't align with my beliefs, because, you know, there's, I don't want to name any other religions because, because this could be far reaching anyway, but there's certain religions that say like, we don't celebrate this because its roots are in that. Right.
Right.
And I say, well, that's cool, but like, we can't go into the history of everything and make meaning out of everything that happened centuries and centuries ago, because that rabbit hole, there's so many of them and they go so deep.
Oh, yeah.
And so what you have, like, again, what you have to do, what I have to do is I have to make meaning for myself. And, you know, I'm going out on a limb here and saying that I believe that God would not punish me for the meaning that someone else made out of something when he knows my heart. Right. So, and I realize I probably said enough that people are like kind of tying this into, you know, and this is not a hit piece here. Like this is one of those pieces where I go, can I celebrate this religion can I celebrate this holiday if, to me, my heart is fully drawn out into God doing it, with some other traditions around it that also I've tied back to my own symbolism, as opposed to the symbolism of, you know, whoever may have originated that particular holiday or that holiday tradition.
I mean, you could literally be talking about Christianity and the, you know, Christmas. And I mean, it can be there's always that.
Yeah, there's some that say literally Christmas was supposedly created by the pagans.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what the pagans believe. I have not studied deeply on it, but I don't care because whatever the tree and the candy cane and the Santa Claus meant to them is not, like, I just don't know. I don't care, because it means something different to what I have tied it to.
Yeah. I can only imagine the pagans of centuries ago who were celebrating their Santa Claus, which I don't. And the Easter Bunny as well.
Yeah.
No, I'm
now that all said, I have made the decision that the Easter Bunny and Easter baskets, they don't work for me. Now, I go to church with a bunch of people who celebrate Easter, and the kids come up hopped
but it's
up
so
on.
Fun.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I'm just gonna be really honest here. I hate Easter grass. Like, I hate how it gets all over your house and you find it for a year. But no, for me, the holiday's sacredness. I celebrate Easter, but my kids didn't even know an Easter Bunny existed until forever. Someone at church had to tell them about it. They've never asked why we don't have Easter baskets. Like, other kids wake up on Sunday morning, Easter Sunday, and there's Easter baskets. Yeah. My kids have never had that. And because for me, the symbolism, I was like, oh man, we're getting really wrapped up in maybe the wrong thing, where I can sing Christmas carols and do. So again, it's personal.
It is. Yeah.
And I really think that it goes back to what I said earlier, is that what you've been given, you've got to be true to it. And then if you sit there and judge other people for what they're getting out of it, what happens is you're drinking the poison, hoping it kills them, as the saying goes. But you're also missing all of the good that you could be having by obsessing over what other people do. Which, by the way, as a non-diagnosed OCD, I think I have some mild, disorder there. I do fixate, and it's really destructive.
Yeah.
And I'm working on it all the time. But I mean, I grew up like really not judging, but boy, oh boy, was I good at figuring out what was wrong with other people.
Yeah. Well, I grew up with quote unquote figuring out what was wrong with other people too, all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm still practicing figuring out what's wrong with other people, but less. Trying to be good. But this was a fun conversation. I don't know why. When you first approached me on this topic, it was with a lot of like, Melody, I don't know if you're going to go for this, because this wasn't on, this isn't something that you might find interesting at all. And then you went right into him like, yeah, I want to talk about this thing.
I've been pretty amped up for this subject. I've been wanting to talk about it for a while. And I don't know if we came up with any, certain answers here.
Certain conclusions. Because there are none. Because
I am certain that it is not appropriate to be at one far end of the spectrum. We have to be able to live on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
The people who have figured this stuff out. I don't need to go figure out if the earth is flat or not. Like, I can go ahead and accept that and use that to dictate a lot of other answers in my life.
Wait, are you saying the earth is flat?
Oh,
You
Melody.
just said,
No,
I don't, I don't
I don't
need,
need to go. I don't need to go back and like research whether it's flat or not. Like I'm going to go ahead and
right.
accept that the earth is round.
There you go. You didn't
Yeah.
say that part.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Let me restate here. I don't need to do any research to figure out that the world is round. Okay. I know there's a lot of people who have sort of regressed into this flat earth that refuse to stand on the shoulders of giants because they don't want to get it fed to them. But I think that there's a lot of danger in not accepting things that are true just for the sake of the fact that you need to prove everything, because you basically are saying at that point, I have to go and figure everything else out so that I can get to where society's at today. I don't think there's health. It's not healthy. Now, that all said, we need to allow the pattern of things that break what we know to be true to allow us to question things, because it's also not healthy to accept everything that's given to you as fact as truth. And wherever you fall in that spectrum of any level of your belief, whether the world is round or flat, or whether it goes back to your belief in God, or whether it goes back to an ethical decision you have to make in your business, at the end of the day, I think that the thing I'm sure of is that it's healthy to be a bit uncertain. It's healthy to leave yourself open to keep that blindfold off so that you don't have blind spots. And that it's okay that as you become more and more wise and you know more and more things, that you become less and less certain about things that maybe you used to know for sure. As long as you're not going to live in that wishy-washiness of using that as an excuse to take no action.
Yeah, I think I really agree with that and resonate with that. This was supposed to be my year of discernment, where I took all the things I've learned and I'm staring them in the face, and I'm throwing out what doesn't serve me, what I may have just taken and I shouldn't have. And I think like you said, the more that I learn and the more that I'm open to learning, I feel a great comfort in the uncertainty that of just being open to the other possibilities and being open to the fact that I am going to continue to change as I get older. And I want that. And that means sometimes the beliefs that I've had are going to change with me. Some of those things are so deeply ingrained that will never change. I hope the good ones.
Well, Melody,
We did it. We
that
did
was
it.
wonderful. That was
Yeah.
wonderful to have this discussion.
Yeah.
I feel that what we're doing here is important for people to think about these things. I ask all of you guys who are listening, just whatever you do, live with intention, and just know that whether you believe that there's a God or whether you don't believe there's a God, whether you're owning a business and trying to, serve lots and lots of people, or whether you have your own little nuclear family, take care of those people who are around you, and just be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. Because as long as you're living with intention and doing all of these things, I believe that that's what the real point of this all is. As we go throughout this life, and you can say loving God and loving your neighbor if you want. The fact is how do you finish this life and learn who you really are? Find out who you are and what you can become, and become the best version of that.
Agree.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us at the Sole Proprietor Podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure having these discussions with you. If you wouldn't mind taking just a few minutes to rate and review us wherever it is that you listen to podcasts, it would mean so much to us. We really do read each of these reviews, and it gives us the opportunity to get the word out to more people who could benefit from hearing about topics like this and so many others. If you want to engage with us at our website and maybe share some topics or ideas of other people that you'd like to hear on the podcast, feel free to go to soulproprietorpodcast.com and share with us your thoughts and ideas about what we could do in the future to bring even more light into the world.